If you've been around here any length of time, you know I love a good church cookbook recipe, and I feel like spring and summertime is the perfect time to dive back into those church cookbooks. It's all about the picnics, cookouts, potluck season, and in those cookbooks are some of the best recipes. So in today's video, I'm sharing 3 recipes that are perfect for summertime, and they're either inspired by or straight from the church cookbooks. I'm sharing 2 classic side dishes, and then make sure you stay tuned until the end. We're saving dessert for last, and this is a no-bake dessert, and it's perfect for summertime. Let's get cooking, y'all. All right, first up today, y'all, we have a classic. This is actually a recipe that we shared before a few years ago, but I thought we would revisit it, get some newer footage, some better footage, and you're not gonna find a church cookbook around here that does not list this as one of the sides. These baked beans are sweet, smoky, has a little bit of that crisp bacon on top, and I promise you, if you take these anywhere, these will get gone super fast. And this one is our go-to. I've shared it here on my channel before, but it's been a few years. I'm gonna link that old video if you're just in the mood to go watch one of our old videos, but I thought we'd make a better quality video today. So again, I'm halving this recipe. For a crowd, I would double this, obviously. So first, this recipe starts with 1 can of pork and beans. We got this can. This is a 28-ounce can. We got this kind from Aldi, and I think it's just as good as the name brand. But like I said, we just need 1 can for today. Next to our beans, we're gonna add about 1/4 cup of brown sugar. We're gonna add 1/2 tablespoon of yellow mustard. Next, we're going in with about 1/3 cup of ketchup. And one thing we are leaving out today is liquid smoke. We haven't bought it in a while since we do have our smoker now. But if you want that smoky taste and you're just baking them in the oven, feel free to add the liquid smoke. I'll put that in there as optional on the written recipe. Next, I'm gonna add just a little bit of Worcestershire. And then for our seasonings, we're gonna go in with some onion powder and some garlic powder. Again, I'll have all the correct measurements down there in the description box for you. Now we're just gonna get everything stirred together. And y'all, that liquid smoke really is good. I just forgot to pick some up, but I just don't use it enough anymore, so I didn't wanna go ahead and just buy some. But if you want some smoky beans in your oven, it is really good. Every time I've taken these beans anywhere, they always get gone, the whole thing. All right, next we're just gonna transfer our beans to our dish. And then lastly, y'all, you're gonna take about 4 or 5 slices of bacon, a few more if you're making, double the recipe. And we just slice it like this into thin little strips. Our bacon is a little bit frozen. I popped it into the freezer because it's easier to slice when it's hard. And I might have forgotten about it for a little bit. So we have some frozen bacon, but that's all right. It's going right into the oven anyway. And then next, all we're gonna do is take those little strips of bacon and lay them all over the top of our beans. And basically, you just wanna use enough bacon until your whole dish is covered. All right, y'all, you wanna cover the top with your bacon, just like that. And this is going into an oven at 375 for about an hour, or just until your bacon is nice and crispy on top. This is going in there uncovered. All right, second up today, we have a little twist on a classic. So in any church cookbook, you're gonna see tons and tons of pasta salads, potato salads, but if you go to any potluck, there's gonna be pasta salad. But today, the trend going around is street corn, and so I thought, why not put those 2 things together and see what we come up with. So this is a street corn pasta salad. All right, y'all, so we have cooked our pasta. We did go ahead and drain it, and I did go ahead and rinse the pasta as well. Of course, y'all probably know this, but anytime with pasta salad, you want to go ahead and give it a rinse. It just removes the extra starch on there, so when you go to dig in your pasta salad, you don't have huge clumps stuck together. And also, of course, we want to stop our cooking process because this is a cold pasta salad. So we have our shells in here, and to that, we're going to add about 1/3 cup of diced red onion. This is a little more in this bowl, so I may not quite add all of that. Of course, you can add however much you like, really. So we have that. And then for our corn, we're going to use 1 can of the fire roasted corn. You can roast your own corn if you want to, if you have some fresh ears of corn this summer. But for today, we're just going with the 1 can of the fire roasted. And we did go ahead and drain this can of corn as well. Let's get it in there. And we're just going to go ahead and mix everything we have so far together. And of course, y'all know if you're not new here, I will have all my recipes either linked down below or typed out in the description box, so that way you don't have to remember all of these measurements and things like that. All right, so next we're gonna set this to the side and work on our dressing for the pasta salad. So for our dressing, we're gonna start with 1/2 cup of mayonnaise. Then we're gonna add 1/4 cup of sour cream. We're also going to add the juice from 1 lime, or about 1/4 cup of lime juice. We're going to do just a sprinkle of Tajín in here. We're going to put a little bit more on top as well. And then just a tiny little sprinkle of black pepper and a tiny little sprinkle of salt. Now we're just going to give that a stir. All right, next let's go ahead and bring back over our pasta. So we're just gonna pour over our dressing. All right, let's go ahead and stir that in. All right, we've about got this mixed up so far. And by the way, I love using the either small or medium shells because all that's gonna do is scoop up all your corn and that dressing and everything else we're gonna put in here and makes for a little delicious bite. All right, we got a couple more things to add to our street corn pasta salad. All right, next we're going in with some crumbled feta cheese. We're just gonna gently kind of fold this in. We're using about 1/2 cup. I am gonna save some for our topping. Also, you can use cotija cheese if you'd rather use that. I personally just really like feta cheese, so that's what we're going with. Next, we're also gonna fold in some fresh chopped cilantro. All right, so we're just gonna gently fold everything together and look how good this is starting to look already. Such a perfect summer pasta salad. All right, so now to top our elote pasta salad, I saved just a little bit of corn to put on top. Just like to do this, it just kind of lets people know, you know, what they're digging into, and it makes it pretty as well. And same thing with that feta cheese, or that cotija, if you want to use that. Y'all, I learned how to pronounce that, so I'm proud of myself for pronouncing that correctly. Just gonna add on that feta cheese on top. Already looking like some street corn. Looks so good. Of course, just a sprinkle more of cilantro for some color. So just a little sprinkle of Tajín right on top. And last but not least, thought I would place just a couple limes on top to make it pretty. Y'all, how good does that look? If you bring this to a cookout and tell people you brought a street corn pasta salad, I have no doubt this is gonna get eaten up first. Everybody is gonna love this. I hope y'all will give it a try. Okay, I think we saved the best for last. I'm gonna share this dessert that is perfect for summertime, perfect for Memorial Day. Anytime you have a get together and wanna make something cool and creamy for dessert and you don't feel like cooking anything, you have to try this no-bake ice cream cake. Okay, y'all, for this recipe, I think this one is really cool because we got all of these ingredients from Aldi, so it's super affordable. And just a side note, we are halving this recipe today. If you were bringing this to a cookout or a larger function, of course you might want to double it. I'll have the doubled recipe down below with a note in there that we did have it. So first you're gonna need 12 ice cream sandwiches. And this recipe is cookbook inspired because some of y'all may remember I shared my grandmother's brownie ice cream sandwich pie a few years ago in one of our first church cookbook recipe videos. I will link it down below, but this is just a variation of that, kind of with a little bit more stuff added. I actually had this kind of ice cream cake at one of my daughter's friends' birthday parties, and it was so good, I asked for the recipe like multiple times. And it's really not even a recipe. It's so easy to make, y'all. So basically, we're just gonna open up our ice cream sandwiches and we're gonna get 6 placed down in the bottom of our dish. Also, if you're watching Kristen or Kristen's mom, shout out to y'all for this recipe inspiration. I had it at your kid's birthday party and I literally have not stopped thinking about it. It was so good. And while I'm doing this, of course you can use any kind of toppings and anything like that that you want. I believe she actually used like a Heath bar crumbled topping on top of hers. But like I said, we got everything at Aldi. They didn't have that, so we're just working with what we could get. But you could use Heath toppings. People use M&Ms, crumbled up Oreos, peanuts, pretzels, anything like that would be delicious. We got 4, and of course I might cut one just to fill up that bottom there. We have 4. Just want to make sure we use about half of these because we do want to have 2 layers. Let me grab my cutting board, y'all. It's a little snug. I think it's perfect. So y'all can note that if you're halving this recipe, then 6 still fits in the bottom. Just cut the last one in half for that last row. Half it in 2, as my grandma would say. Okay. All right, for our next layer, we're just gonna add some whipped topping. I just have an 8-ounce container over here. And we just want a small little layer in there. We want to save some for the top. And this is so pretty too if you use a glass dish to see all those layers in there. All right, so next for this middle layer, this is where you can kind of get creative, add whatever you want. You can also do this on the top, but I'm going to do something kind of festive on the top. So I'm going to put kind of our caramel and chocolate in the middle. And you just want to drizzle some on, however much you want. A little bit of that caramel. My goodness gracious. And then I have some chocolate syrup. I need to go this way. And this reminds me of my grandmother's cookie ice cream sandwich pie. She used chocolate syrup just like this. Add some in. All right, so we have that. Now we're just gonna do the same thing again. We're gonna add those 6 ice cream sandwiches right on top. And just to satisfy myself, I'm gonna put the halves on this side this time and the whole one's over here. All right, next we're just gonna come in with most of the rest of that whipped topping. Get another little layer on top. And by the way, you do wanna make this in something that can go in the freezer because we do wanna keep our ice cream sandwiches cold, of course. So this is Pyrex. This can go in there. We just don't wanna make it go, from hot to cold super fast, but it will be fine. All right, and so we are gonna go a little bit festive since it's Memorial Day weekend this weekend. All right, so I'm just gonna cover this and it's gonna go in the fridge for at least 30 minutes to an hour, just so that Cool Whip can kind of harden up and it's a lot easier to slice. But this is super easy to make, no cooking required. Y'all, this is so good too. As always, friends, I'm gonna have all of these recipes linked down below for you or typed out, so just make sure you check down there if you're thinking about giving any of these recipes a try. Let me know down in the comments if you are. Let me know what your plans are for this Memorial Day weekend. Leave a hot dog emoji down there in the comments so I can be sure to say hey to you. And if you're ready for seconds, I have a video right here on the screen. I will meet y'all over there and I will see y'all in the next video. Bye, y'all.